Okay, so I know you read the title, and I know you're curious on why this is even a video, so let's just get right into where the idea came from. Scrolling on Reddit, seeing someone post about how much they love and enjoy God of War 4. I'm someone who enjoyed the game as well. I do want to put that out there. I platinumed it. I beat all of the Valkyries. This is a phenomenal game. However, this game has one extreme flaw for me, which is why Red Dead Redemption 2 is my true game of the year. So on Reddit, someone just posted how much they're enjoying God of War 4 as they're currently going through the playthrough, not thinking about it too much and nonchalantly. I commented about how much I enjoyed the game, but one major flaw set it back for me, which made Red Dead 2 the true game of the year. Now, if any of us know anything about Reddit, opinions are not welcome. So it opened up a huge discussion on why people thought God of War was boring, why people thought Red Dead was boring, why this one's the game of the year, why that one's the game of the year. It's my opinion on why God of War was not my game of the year, but I figured it did make a good discussion topic for a video. So without further ado, let's get into the games. Okay, so let's start with Red Dead Redemption 2. I cannot say one bad thing about this game. The story, we talk about graphics so much, I kind of feel like they don't need to be stated. Every game this generation has amazing graphics, whether they're going for the realistic graphics or not. They're all great. So graphics aside, in both games, the story is amazing. The gameplay is amazing. I know on Reddit there were some critiques about the shooting. I never had an issue with the shooting. Some were saying it was too easy. I, I can't honestly. I can't remember all of the critiques they were saying, but just me personally, from playing the game, I never had an issue with the shooting. The game is kind of long with the traveling, going around on horseback. Sometimes can feel boring. You know, it's a lot of conversations. It's very slow with the traveling until you get the fast travel to where you could just jump back and forth between different places. But that's probably a small critique. Other than that, I do agree with some users who are saying it sometimes feel a little clunky with the movement and trying to get in covers and things like that. But this is now me like really nitpicking to find stuff. The clunkiness of cover never felt like it broke the immersion of the game. Just it's like I'm really trying to scratch my brain to find stuff that I did not like about this. The story, which I don't want to get into spoilers, but for those who played it, we know how amazing the story is and how it leads directly into Red Dead Redemption 1, since it is a prequel. The side activities, the following other characters around, if you follow a specific, not even a specific, any NPC, you'll notice that they do have an in-game job. They go from their in-game job to at night they go home, and you know they're sleeping, and then they wake up and they start their routine all over again. It makes it feel like a living, breathing world, which was also amazing. I know some games try that in today's world, and they cannot match this game. Well, this game's not too old. It's about 3 years old, but still, no game has yet been able to replicate what Rockstar did. It has the full package. It's a great length. It has a multiplayer aspect. It has an amazing story. I can't say anything bad about it. Now, the biggest part of this discussion it's not more so why I believe Red Dead Redemption 2 is the game of the year. It's more so why God of War is not the game of the year. And I do want to talk about that one next. Diving right into why this game is not my true game of the year is because the lack of boss battles. I cannot stress enough how annoying, frustrating it was for me to play this game with the lack of boss battles. And I know some people are going to be like, oh no, the Valkyries and the Valkyries. The Valkyries are not true to the story, because if we're gonna play it that way, let's say they thought of post content for God of War 2, God of War 3, because at the end of the day, the Valkyries are post content. They're not stuff that they're not battles you would really do during the main story. You come back after, you know, you're armored up, you're geared up, you have your runes, you have all this other stuff to where you can tackle them on. So if they took the same approach for God of War 2 and God of War 3, that would mean there would be that many more, if that's the correct way I should phrase it, boss battles on top of the ones that was already in the story content. Now, Valkyries aside, and no spoilers for those who have not yet played it, I counted 3 boss battles in this game, and people argued on Reddit that there were 4 if you want to include the Valkyries. It goes to show how this specific game, some of the boss fights were not that important and they were not that memorable, because as a mistake of my own and those who also responded, there were actually 4 boss fights, not 3. But the 3 that I mentioned are the ones that stand out and people remember the most, compared to every single boss fight in God of War 3 specifically that is memorable. The boss fight that I'm referring to is none other than the Magni and Modi, if I pronounced their names right, that we missed. The crazy thing is, this is actually a legitimate boss fight in the game, but from the discussion on Reddit, no one remembers this fight, and that's kind of a bad thing in my opinion, because in a game with so few true boss fights, and I'm not talking about those giant trolls or those cyclops that shoot the beams from here, those are copy and paste quick easy battles. They're kind of semi-boss battles. I'm talking about true fights. This game had realistically 4 true boss battles, and I stated 3 because I completely forgot about this boss battle until I was looking up the others to make the commentary about this video, and I realized, like, oh shit, like, I forgot about this fight. It goes to show how, I mean, the 2-on-2 aspect was pretty cool, and to see Atreus somewhat in action, but realistically, other than that, the battle is just so lackluster, especially compared to the opening fight with Baldur. The other fights that I'm not going to say too much about, but this fight, it didn't have anything in it, and most people forgot about it. Now, you can also make the argument that God of War 3 is the ending trilogy, and God of War 4 is the beginning of a new trilogy, and compare God of War 4 more to God of War 1, to where the only real big boss battle was the ending with Ares. But I would say, my response to that would be, God of War 1 was the beginning. As you can see in God of War 2, it leaped the franchise with how many boss fights, and it's basically what made God of War, with having numerous big, crazy, high-profile fights. And this just didn't have that for me. I'm not saying we need to fight and kill Thor in the first one, no, but they could have added way more than what they gave us, and I think it boils down to the expectations, right? When I first got Red Dead Redemption 2, what was my expectation of the game? I was thinking Grand Theft Auto 5, Wild Wild Western style, times 5 of what Grand Theft Auto 5 is, because better graphics, better gameplay, better story, because this is what Rockstar's been working on for, at the time, what was the next gen consoles. So that's what I expected. I got everything I expected, but even more, with the detail to character, the detail to the world, the living, breathing world, the immersion, the Easter eggs with, aliens and meteors and all this other stuff. It gave me what I wanted plus more. It exceeded my expectations. Do you really want to know? Well, before I even say that, backtracking, Red Dead Redemption 2 I gave more expectations for than God of War. In God of War, my only expectations was an amazing story, which I can say that exceeded expectations. It was actually a better story than what I thought, and in my opinion, God of War 4 has kind of a better story starting for this trilogy than the actual story of 1, 2, and 3 of the original trilogy combined. That's just my personal opinion. So the story exceeded expectations for me. The other expectation I had was some big and multiple boss battles. The opening fight, this fight that you're seeing on screen, had me excited because I'm like, wow, they're going to deliver a ton of amazing fights. This game is about to be insane, and even though the game is still really great and amazing, as I kept going through it and I started realizing that I'm not getting into many of those big battles, it started it, it started to set the game back for me just a little bit. And I'm not saying a lot. This game is still a 9.5 to me, to be honest. 9.5, whatever you want to get it. It's an amazing game. It failed to meet my expectations in a specific field, and it's why I give Red Dead 2 the throne for 2018 Game of the Year. I mean, we're talking about a game that gave us this. And this. And this. And this. And this. After playing all those back, you really realize how much of a dick Kratos is. But that's not the point. The point is, there are so many memorable moments in God of War 3, God of War 2, and I didn't even include in there the fight with Kronos, the fight with Zeus. There's so many amazing fights. I can't even count how many I showed there. What was it, maybe 4 or 5? If not a little more, and those already equaled or are greater than the amount of fights in this game. I came in to this high expectations and high hopes about boss fights. Just as you've seen on the screen, I wanted a ton of fights like these, and this was the opening one. I wanted it to get bigger than this, go on a grander scale, and even though it did with maybe the second biggest fight, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, so I'm just going to call it the giant demon dog. Maybe that's a spoiler in itself, but that was a giant grand scale battle. But other than that, it was a setback for me. But I'm curious to think what you guys think about this in the comments. What was your game of the year for 2018? Red Dead Redemption 2 or God of War. Let's discuss it down below.